All right, welcome back to the Southern Apologetics channel. I'm your host Dustin, and I got a good video for you today. I hope that it helps you think about something from a biblical perspective. Are there other life forms, and does it matter from the Christian perspective? So before I get into the nuts and bolts of that, I want to address the actual argument itself. Uh, a lot of people tend to think that the universe is so big, it's got to have other life forms or aliens or whatever you want to call it. And I just recently had someone ask me the question. Says, the universe is so big, billions of galaxies, stars, and planets. There's got to be other life forms out there. What do you think? And while it's a reasonable question, it's actually based on an assumption, not evidence. And so it's a logical fallacy to make an assumption based off ignorance, which is called the argument of ignorance. Um, the idea that something must be true simply because we can't prove it false or vice versa. We haven't found alien life, but space is huge. Therefore, aliens must exist. Do you see the problem with that? The size of the universe doesn't logically prove the existence of life. Just because the size of something doesn't verify something that's true. It's only showing a possibility, but not necessity or any probability at all. So, why is it tempting but flawed? So, people confuse possibility and probability. It's possible that life exists elsewhere, but it's probable only if we have evidence or mechanisms that make it likely. Uh, but we currently don't have a lot of evidence for extraterrestrial life, not that I'm aware of. Uh, so saying it must exist overstates the argument and commits what's called a non sequitur. It does not follow. So you just have to be careful and with how you think logically about something. Now, um, the vastness of creation shows God's power. That's something to keep your mind on, but it doesn't logically have to require other life. So so when we get into these topics of is there other life and all that, like I say, uh, depending on how we define life, if we're talking about what we see on TV and like the History Channel or whatever, that like say aliens with the tall, lanky, real slender with the big eyes and stuff. Um, it's possible that those things exist, but I want to throw something out there about this. Uh, every time that I won't say every time, but the majority of times that I've watched television or I've heard about aliens and UFOs and all this sort of stuff and these abductions, uh, say that they really do exist and they may. I'm going to say that they're demonic because by nature, abduction is evil. When you abduct or kidnap someone, that's an evil act. So you're going to fall into the classification of the demonic realm. So, um, how does this really apply to the Bible? Does the Bible even mention anything? It doesn't directly mention extraterrestrial beings in the modern sense. But however, God is the creator of all things, both seen and unseen. Colossians 1:16. So that means if life did exist beyond Earth, it would still be under God's creative authority, not separate from Him. Uh, the other part here is humanity's unique role in creation. Um, Humans are described as being made in God's image, nothing else, just humans. So in Genesis 1:26, it says, "Then God said, 'Let us make man in our image, after our likeness.'" It's not referring to anything else in that passage. So this sets humanity apart from any other known creatures. If there are so-called aliens floating around in the sky and abducting people, again they fall into demonic, and they're not distinct like humans are. Uh, so, so from a theological standpoint, the image of God includes moral awareness, spiritual capacity, and relationship with God. If there were other intelligent life forms, we need to ask: are they made in God's image too? Did they fall into sin? Would they need redemption through Christ? These are questions that you need to ask yourself. And from my understanding of it, none of them, if these aliens that we see in the UFOs or whatever, they don't fit the criteria. They're not made in God's image, so they wouldn't fit the criteria. So that's the next question: is Christ's redemption just on earth? Well, it didn't say it anywhere else in the Bible. It seemed to imply that only humanity needed and received redemption, and that other life forms that might exist, but they're without spiritual accountability. So it doesn't, again, for defining like aliens how we see. Uh, Now, there, as far as life forms, like water or something, or some sort of microbe or something like that, I think there's been some findings of that in Mars, but that doesn't really, again, have any bearing on Scripture, and neither does the aliens and UFOs abducting people have any bearing on Scripture at all. So, uh, it doesn't really matter. So aliens or UFO claims are often explainable, and some people by natural military causes. Christians should avoid jumping to supernatural conclusions without evidence and test all things. So again, if there are aliens out there of some kind, then I would definitely test the spirits. And just so far, from what I can tell, just, and I'm no expert in this area, they seem to fall into the demonic category. Now, if you do want to dive deeper into this topic, there's a guy that's much more versed, or much more in depth with this. His name is Chuck Missler, and you can look him up, and he's got a lot more research done in this area. So if you would like to dive deeper into this, um, so again, going back to the logical fact, the vastness of the universe should lead us not to fear, but to awe. Uh, Whether we're alone or not, God's creation displays His power and majesty. Our responsibility remains the same: to worship the Creator, not the creation, and to proclaim the gospel wherever we are. So it's so just because the size of something doesn't mean that there's got to be other life, or the size of the universe. Again, you're mixing possibility and probability, and it's important to make sure that you have evidence of some kind to back you up, and that can help you with the probability. But when you don't have any, and you're just jumping into assumptions, that's when you find yourself in a pickle. So with that being said, this is kind of a shorter video. If you guys are listening out there, like and subscribe to the video, and I'll keep posting more. Thank you.